Well, what can I say? We all knew that this will happen. GTA 6 is not only gonna be absolutely woke, but it's also gonna be slop, obviously. And on top of being a woke slop, it's gonna be $100 a woke slop, probably. And if that doesn't come through, by the way, you know something else is. Probably Nintendo with their next Pokemon game that's gonna rival Palworld in some way, but it's obviously not gonna do that.
Have you ever felt like you're just living in a separate reality from the rest of the world? What if I told you?
Yes, but I am also diagnosed with extreme schizophrenia. I should not be even on it. That's a joke, YouTube. Relax, relax. Or is it? Relax, relax, relax. I like money.
That everything you've ever assumed about the games industry and video game executives was absolutely true. Eerily so. That these guys call you sheep behind your back.
Wait. Boys, at this point, we all know that we are better than all of this. Because we at no moment actually assumed that the people in the video game industry are our allies or friends. We always knew that they are against us. We always knew that they hate us. This is not news for most of us. This is not news for 99% of us, in fact. All of us know that these developers hate us. They absolutely hate our guts. They wish bad things happen to us. They want to get rid of us. They're not even hiding it most of the time. This is nothing new. We know. We have been living in this world for a long time now.
They say they don't need to QA their games because you're going to do it for them. And that their focus is to make the most predatory systems possible to try to manipulate you out of your money. Recently, the $100 video games discussion has come back, and with it, this time, they're saying that the market demands it. It has to happen, and they need more aggressive monetization to...
You know what's funny about this? It's when they say the market is actually the consumers. The market is literally built only from the consumers. The market does not even take into account distributors or anything like that. The market is literally just the consumers. So when they're saying the market demands it, this is obviously a lie. Now granted, not the first, not the last, not the second, not even the 100th time that these people will straight up lie to our face and pretend that they're smarter than us. So, I mean, just another day in the life.
What they believe is going to be zero pushback. They say that you're just going to buy it anyway. Recently, a former Call of Duty...
By the way, I love this so much. Because these people are insane. Absolutely lost their minds. Ruthless. Okay? And the fact is, we already have seen that the $70 price tag, the $60 price tag, and the $50 price tag has effectively collapsed. No one extreme super fanboys is buying games at that price. Because now we have alternatives that are maximum $40. Claire Obscure, Arc Raiders, Silksong was $20, Mega Bonk was $10. There are so many examples. The $50 price tag is pretty much dead, and now most people, thankfully, by the way, pat ourselves on the back, boys. We did it. We non-stop talked about the prices being too high, predatory, and not good for us. And, well, why the hell would we have to care about some fucking multi-million-dollar company that says, oh no, we can't make our multi-hundred millions, the price needs to be high. Why would we care about that? I don't give a shit about developers. I don't give a shit about these companies. I don't care. I don't care in the slightest, and so should you not care. Okay? I find it hilarious that these people are adamant about the idea that the $100 price tag is gonna work out and be okay. When we reject literally $50 pretty much already because it's just not value. There's no value, in fact.
An Activision executive has come forward to talk about how he believes he is going to fix the problems in the games industry by advocating for $100 games and microtransactions in indie games.
Nice.
This is the worst interview that I've ever read. These profit-addicted parasites will ruin everything they possibly can. while completely ignoring the fact that video game prices on average are crashing through the floor. Consoles aren't selling. We're entering into a job market where there are fewer jobs than there are people that are applying to those jobs. We have younger generations that have all but just stopped buying games.
That's actually not true. No one wants the shitty jobs that underpay.
Meanwhile, these people are out there, the media.
Which is, by the way, normal and good. Okay? If a job is mandatory and necessary, but you're gonna only be willing to give minimal pay for it, that's probably on you. 100% on you, in fact.
For the most part, are going out and criticizing these kids for not having any money when it's their fault they don't have any. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you guys to the world of video game executives and how they ruin everything. I'm sorry. Today's video is sponsored by Raycon. Now that the
Sorry before an ad, actually unironically based.
When I say it feels like I'm living in an alternate reality, I mean it. I look around right now and honestly, I don't know who these people think they're talking to. Executives.
What is this AI-generated slop?
Politicians, the media, all acting like they can tell you the sky is red and you won't notice, as if people can't fact check their bullshit in 10 seconds. For the past 2 years, we've watched as journalists and executives have cheered on the idea of $100 games. Journalists because it's going to generate clicks, outrage, and easy discourse for them, and executives because they've convinced themselves that it's necessary for survival. A lesson you would think that they would have learned by now, considering that Xbox floated an $80 Outer Worlds 2 and nobody showed up, somehow managing to have less players.
No one showed up, and it also lowered its price by $10. By the way, when they lowered the price by $10, they were like, look at us. We're so kind, so generous. Please sing our praises of glory. And, I mean, this graph speaks for itself. This is a disaster. This had noticeably less sales than the first game.
Than Avowed. Nintendo had their own version of that, padding the adoption numbers with an $80 Mario Kart World by bundling it with hardware and calling it demand. Outside of indie, this industry is visibly trying to warp itself into something unrecognizable, a system obsessed with draining players, developers, and games themselves until there's just nothing left to take. I think that truth has always been there, but it used to be spoken quietly. Now, the mask is gone, and these guys are just saying it out loud. Last month, a former Call of Duty director gave an interview to Esport Bets in an article titled Former Call of Duty creative director Greg Riesdorf on how the series must evolve, what he's doing to fix some of the...
I think if you have worked on Call of Duty, you by default have deserved no rights in the world. You should be blacklisted from the industry and not treated as a human being. In Minecraft, obviously.
Biggest issues in gaming and why he dreams of a Grand Theft Auto in space. Man, a former Activision executive talking to a betting site about fixing video games. I mean, how could this go wrong? Buckle up, guys. You're in for a wild ride. In the article, Greg talks at length about his new business, Oncade, a monetization platform specifically built for AA and indie games. It offers tools for payouts, creator revenue share, in-game marketplaces, virtual currencies, and monetized user-generated content. These systems, he claims, were once things that they wanted to pursue inside of Activision, but ultimately didn't because at some point...
Built by industry veterans, what kind of slop are we dealing here with? Stavros Lee, over 20 years in tech and video games, former director of engineering at OUA and Razer. Wow, Razer, shipping software at scale to billions of users. What a hero! He worked at Razer, boys. Over 20 years of years in video games, creative director of Call of Duty, multiplayer for 13 plus years. That is sad. That is sad. Over 10 billion in revenue. Yes, because when we're talking about games, obviously the revenue is the big number you want to talk about. Production and development relations leader, advisor, inventor, and nothing.
Ultimately didn't because at some point, Call of Duty was making so much money they just didn't care anymore. Even in the context of creator codes, that quote is so good. It doesn't just explain why those systems never materialized inside of Call of Duty, it explains the entire Call of Duty mindset. You could easily apply this to the phoned-in entries, the increasing prices, and the complete removal of value from that series. He then goes on to talk about offering indie devs similar monetization opportunities, comparing it to Call of Duty's live service structure that he refers to as the content treadmill, a system that once you start, you can never stop feeding it. This isn't about creative ambition or players or games anymore. It's just about continuing to make sure that machine keeps moving and the slop farm keeps going. Content isn't something that you make because it's meaningful or finished. It's just something that you just continue to shove into a pipe because, well, stopping isn't an option because you're going to make less money. The exact kind of influence that we want inside of indie games. After that, he splits the audience literally into the haves and have-nots. Riesdorf explains how people who don't have the money but do have the time can still be made useful, not by playing the game, but by feeding the system, converting surplus time into labor through user-generated content and creator monetization. Now, what makes this moment incredibly revealing to me is that the developers pushed back against it, but it just went straight over this dude's head. They told him directly, that's cool, but I'd really like to have a game that people played first. Devs not asking for monetization loops. They're just asking for visibility, reach, and an audience that actually wants to play their game. And his response wasn't even about games at all. Instead, he says, so we went closer to the revenue.
It makes sense.
Share side, figuring out how we could work with creators and get them revenue share on game sales and key sales. We're starting to see more and more pickup from publishers who are interested in that. This is so dystopian. How is
this is probably not even true. Let me tell you a secret about all of these stupid fucking startups. All of them are gonna lie that they have people working with them, people lined up, that their shit is growing and things like that. They're just gonna lie because the reality is they're either gonna lie and make it or lie and no one's gonna care and collapse. So lying. The irony of lying becoming mandatory in the modern corporate world is something to be quite fearful of.
this stuff even real? When developers say we want people to want the game, the only thing this guy can think of is turning players, creators, and communities into distribution nodes, making everybody a part of an ecosystem that's economically useful whether they want to be or not. The brain rot only continues when he was asked what was the one biggest decision or feature you and your teams brought to Call of Duty that, looking back, had the greatest impact on the franchise as a whole. He
loot boxes.
responds, loot boxes. You can't make this up. Saying,
I didn't read it. You know I'm too stupid to read. You know I'm too stupid to see something right in front of my eyes. You know that I space out when there's text on the screen. It was so predictable to know it's loot boxes, though.
that for Advanced Warfare, the loot boxes became this pincushion, right? But the entire loot system was a reward system.
I am the Messi of predictions. You know I'm always right, bro. The amount of stuff I have been completely on point and right about is insane. The Fate of Bethesda, Fallout, Borderlands 4, Avowed, The Outer Worlds 2, everything, Starfield. Oh my lord, everything. I'm so good at my job.
And the loot boxes became the monetization.
Also, please like and subscribe. It takes less than a second because keep in mind, your 9 to 5 is so much easier than my job, okay? Reacting takes a special kind of talent. It takes a special kind of talent. Got it. Okay, so I thank you everyone who actually does like and subscribe. It actually does help out the channel on a serious note, and it takes less than a second. Thank you everyone.
System on top of that. The actual reward system of being able to be rewarded with different weapons, different outfits, and all that stuff, it was huge to the franchise. When we were pitching that, the response was, we're selling bacon skins for $2. Why would we get rid of that and try this new reward system out? That ended up being huge for the franchise as a whole. Man, this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say that these guys are terrible for the games industry. They are a plague on the games industry. They don't care about games or players. All they care about is extraction. Loot boxes didn't just go too far. They permanently warped how rewards work in games. They hollowed out progression. They stripped meaning from achievement. And they replaced it with a damn slot machine. And this guy's proud of it. So proud of it that he wants to bring it to indie games. And what used to feel earned now became something you buy. And that rot didn't disappear when loot boxes did. It just metastasized. Monetization is almost entirely replaced reward design. So few games feel genuinely rewarding anymore because the feedback loop isn't built around mastery or discovery or satisfaction. It's built around compulsion, timers, drip-fed progress, artificial friction, all tuned to keep the player hovering just short of enough so the easiest solution is for them to pay. It is abusive psychology that's masquerading as design, rewiring how people are interacting with games, not just to keep us engaged, but instead to condition.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. What is this game that he's playing? It seems so strange. So you're in a mech, and mechs are objectively horrible design. Okay, but if you can make stuff like mechs fly, you will never make mechs. You will make just small drone-esque type of balls with specific hive mind behavior and specific tasks. That's what you're gonna do, because that's so much more efficient than a goddamn mech. Mechs are less efficient than tanks. Mechs are, in fact, stupid compared to tanks, okay? God, I hate mechs. I literally could go probably on a one day long tirade about how much I hate mechs. They're the epitome of bad design. Now, granted, mechs are cool, obviously, and stuff, but design-wise, I hate them. I absolutely despise them. They're the stupidest thing ever. Hey, let's make a mech that can use one gun, but let's not make that gun inbuilt. Let's make that gun a separate entity that we need to then make fingers so the mech can use it. That's so stupid. So stupid. Unbelievable.
Us. Players aren't chasing fun anymore. They're just mashing the reward button like lab animals, except the button is now...
Players would always mashing the reward button like lab animals. We know that this has been in fact true, because it's fun. I have done it, you have done it. Now granted, I am smart enough and you are also smart enough to see when we are doing these things. There are people who literally are playing Diablo 4 and then ironically having fun currently. We call them retards because they have below 50 IQ and could probably get government benefits for life.
Our credit card and the prize is a banana suit. After that, he just keeps talking, and somehow it just continues to get worse. When asked about how teams balance internal data against community feedback, he confirms every bad assumption that players have ever had. He brags about empowering teams to listen to the community, and then immediately pivots to how QA is a problem because testing everything takes too long, so he'd rather just push it live. And he says when players complain about being used as testers, his response was, the community will say, we're now the QA testers, but either you want the change or not. No accountability, no concern, just ship it and see who breaks, I guess. Then he moves on to matchmaking, where he openly admits that they manipulate skill perception.
Listen, this is Activision, okay? I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually kind of in favor of the Activision soulless evil developers than the player base. Because if you unironically play Call of Duty because you think it's a great game, you have issues. If you're playing World of Warcraft currently and thinking it's a great experience and the story is not gay slop, you have issues. Like, this is Activision that we're talking about. Blizzard, Activision, Candy King, or whatever the fuck it's called nowadays. And it's slop. It's bad. Okay? People who unironically are fans of their decisions and whatnot, I mean, I don't really have a lot of pity there, because some people can only learn through pain effectively. And the unironic Call of Duty players are that group of people.
Pad lobbies with bots so players don't quit, and smooth over losses so people keep playing. Not for fairness, not for fun, for retention, for control, for keeping, in his own words, the sheep available for the wolves.
Nice.
Then the conversation finally turns towards video game pricing, and this is where things get really good because he's asked, while we're talking about the business models behind gaming today and how smaller teams can monetize their work, where do you stand on the looming idea of a $100 price tag for games in the AAA space? He starts off by predicting the end of free-to-play altogether, arguing that there are simply too many games that are spending hundreds of millions of dollars only to launch and die the next day, something that I actually finally agree.
This is such a stupid take. This guy doesn't even know how finance works. Free to play is going nowhere. The biggest, most successful money printing machines in gaming are free to play. Candy Crush, Fortnite. Literally all of these things are free. All of the Genshin Impact, free. All of these things are free. Being free is a massive opportunity to get a huge chunk of the market, okay? And the reason why a lot of things fail for free is because everyone's making stuff for free. You know who's doing also worse than free games? Paid games. Yeah. Your AAA slop is doing horribly currently.
Agree with in this article until he says his solution is not restraint or better games, it's just to return to premium price titles with microtransactions. Then he's asked directly, does the release schedule of Call of Duty make it harder to ask players to pay $100 every year or even every other year compared to Grand Theft Auto that at this point takes a decade or more to release? And he responds with, once you do it once and stick a $100 price tag on your game, it's just going to go up across the industry. Other games will follow. I don't think Call of Duty will be the first one to do
I want this so much.
it, but at some point, the market demands it. Your investors are going to be asking why you haven't done this and the cost to create these games.
No investor has ever asked this. The last time I remember hearing an investor call and someone asking this was actually fear from the investors that they're gonna push $100 price tag, because even investors who don't even know what gaming is understand that that's a horrible decision.
Are super high. I want to make it painfully obvious that anytime the $100 games discussion comes up, anytime game prices ever come up, notice how we are never a part of the discussion. In the long list of achievements that this guy is so proud of, the things that he's doing, the damage that he's going to do to this games industry, not a single time are we ever brought up anything other than just being consumers. These faceless organisms that are floating about, these useful idiots that'll line up to buy the next thing, that'll swipe the card for the next skin. Or in his case, the thing that they're really excited about right now, which is turning us into people that are making content for them so they can sit back and just rake in all of the profit.
That doesn't even work. Like, all of the things that this guy said is just gunk. This is not corporate talk, this is just delusion. This is effectively the same level of stupidity the Mind's Eye CEO was on. This is what it sounds like. This is what Nintendo thinking that AI-generated Pokemon is the future is saying. Like, all of these answers are just delusional.
The one thing that I will say that I find really funny about all of this is how developers actually pushed back and said, yeah, that's cool, but, you know, we just want people to want to play our game. It goes right over this dude's head, and he then pivots to, oh, well, we'll turn content creators into commission-based salespeople. These suits do not belong in a creative industry.
Also, that's not even true at this point. It doesn't work because the ads that people offer you nowadays are fucking horrible. Okay? There's a reason why you have seen only a few select multi-million subscriber channels nowadays do ads. Because the ads are just horrible nowadays. The ad rates are horrible. So the idea that this CEO is gonna make YouTubers, for example, salesmen, is not happening because he will never actually pay the price that the YouTubers want. The prices these people unironically think they can email me and say, how about you do 3 shorts about our game and we're gonna pay you $50. Now, granted, you would think that's not a bad deal, but no, $50 for 3 shorts? Nah. 3 short. How about 0.5 shorts for $100, dude? Okay, these people are gonna These people unironically think that everyone's gonna do everything for them for free, and that you, for some reason, also will want to give them all of your money. The delusion of these people is just extreme.
They represent a very real rot within the games industry, something that I think is more venomous and damaging than ideological differences that we may see sometimes. I mean, we have a AAA executive talking to betting agencies. That's bad enough by itself. But this is an industry that is almost entirely put the games, the players, the developers, the process behind the money, behind the business, behind the stock prices, behind the investors. And it has done so much damage to video games. It's so revealing to see somebody like them, to hear somebody like him, a former Activision creative director turned monetization strategist that is now bearing his fangs towards AA and indie, all because they see the success that those guys are getting and they want to get a slice of that, and they think the best way for them to get rich is to siphon off of their success, to include all the things that they've done to the rest of the industry to these indie games. And the one thing that these guys don't seem to understand is the reason why these independent games have done so well is because they haven't had to use middlemen like them. They don't have to be involved with them. And players have done everything we possibly can to avoid people like him and the games they influence. $100 games. Set the price and everybody will follow. Man, he makes that sound really easy. These guys love living in a reality that just doesn't exist. People don't have the money. They don't have the jobs. We have younger generations have almost entirely given up on AAA. They are so disillusioned by it all. And I don't know where these guys think the money's
Everyone has given up on AAA. That's the funny part at this point. That is actually the funny part.
going to be coming from. I don't think they know where the players are going to be coming from. And if these guys chase it, they're going to fail. And
Good.
Part of me wants them to do it because I would love to watch it happen. Now, what I love is that this guy is wrong, immediately and emphatically wrong. How is he claiming that once a single game sets a $100 price point, that the rest of the industry will follow? My guy, we already watched publishers try to push a far smaller price increase and fail. Outer Worlds 2 floated $80, and they quietly walked that back. Mario Kart World is the only real example of $80 sticking, and even that came bundled with hardware at launch, padded by circumstances more than anything else. Since then, nothing, not a single major release has been above $70. If these companies can't normalize $10, then what is the idea that you're trying to come up with that suddenly they're going to be able to jump to $100? That's pure fantasy. Now, I will say he is right about one thing, and that's that Grand Theft Auto 6 could probably get away with it, but that's not because $100 games are inevitable. It's just because Grand Theft Auto is a genuine anomaly. It's a franchise that, it's the only franchise that exists completely outside of genre loyalty, platform tribalism, and gamer identity. People who don't play games by GTA. People who haven't touched a controller in a decade.
Anyway, that was Legendary Drops. 10 out of 10. Again, I'm just looking forward to the AAA industry just destroying itself. I want it. Bye.